Hi BookTube, my name is Juan, I am just one reader, and I am here with a tentative TBR for the upcoming months. Because, you know what, I think I'm the kind of guy who wants to make the most out of a very crappy situation. And with everything that's been going on, what with the coronavirus and the panic and everything that's been going on right now, it looks as though I'm gonna get more time to sit down and read. Now, the coronavirus thing, the entire current situation, the context, doesn't exactly prevent me from working. It just means that my way of working and the way that I live my life is going to change a little bit. So I'm gonna take a lot of phone calls from my patients instead of actually going to my office and see my patients. We're gonna do things online or through the telephone. So that's a great option. Instead of going to the university and teach my classes, I'm gonna do the same thing but online. I'm gonna provide some online courses. And so the whole idea of the coronavirus situation right now in Mexico City is that I think I will get more time here in my house or in my office, but without having to go from one place to another. So that means that I will get to save a lot of time because I spend many hours of my day in traffic going from one place to another. So with this whole coronavirus thing, at least I will get to save all those commute times, and hopefully I will be able to read more during those hours that I will be saving every day. So I have come to you with some books that I would like to read, and I don't know, maybe this will take me like a couple of weeks, maybe it will take me months, who knows. Let me get a sip of coffee. So I'm gonna show you a mix, a selection of psychoanalysis books that I am reading both for my training as a psychoanalyst myself, also some of the books that I am teaching to my students who are not psychoanalysts, they are psychologists, but I teach them a psychoanalytical course. And then I'm also going to show you some fiction books that I want to continue reading because I was really enjoying them, had to stop, and now I would like to resume my reading of them. So I'm going to start off with a book that I am thoroughly enjoying, which is Dream Life by Donald Meltzer. I am reading, and by the way, I love my little Gandalf bookmark. So this is Dream Life by Donald Meltzer. This is a book that we are reading right now in the training to become psychoanalysts. I am currently on year 5 of the training, so my training is almost complete. And right now we are we're taking a very advanced course on dream analysis and interpretation. Now, of course, you might be aware that Freud, the founder of psychoanalysis, wrote very extensively about dream analysis and interpretation. And even though it is true that Freud's ideas are very much at the core of psychoanalysis today and at the core of dream interpretation, psychoanalysis has developed and grown greatly since Freud. In this over 100 years since Freud, we have developed greatly as a discipline, as a method of investigating the mind and its processes. And this is a great example of that, because in this book, Donald Meltzer, who is one of the more modern, contemporary psychoanalysts, what I really like about this book is that he first summarizes what we can still use from Freud's ideas, which is a lot because he was a fucking genius. But then he's also extremely critical about Freud, and he really questions some of his ways of approaching the mind, very mechanical views, or neurological, mechanical, physical ways of approaching the mind that Freud have, which are just not able to, they're not sustainable still today. So he's very critical of Freud, and then he sort of implements new theories and new lines of thought into dream analysis, and he comes up with his own way of thinking about dreams. So I'm really enjoying this book. It's a very thin little book, but it takes a long time to read just a chapter because it's very dense, but I really, really enjoy this kind of more modern psychoanalysis. Then another very modern psychoanalytical text that I would like to read is The New Analyst's Guide to the Galaxy. Questions about contemporary psychoanalysis. This is written by Antonino Ferro, who is the leading psychoanalyst in Italy, and he is, again, he's a very contemporary modern psychoanalyst in that he explores and questions and criticizes and rescues Freud, and not just Freud, but the old psychoanalytical ideas, and then he questions everything, and then he comes up with a new psychoanalysis for the future. Again, Freud is at the center, at the core of psychoanalysis, and will always be, because what he invented was the analysis of transference, and that's a whole other issue that I could just go on a tangent on and just talk forever about, the analysis of transference and countertransference, which is psychoanalysis at its core. And Freud was the one who discovered the method, the clinical way to understand that. But modern psychoanalysts like Antonino Ferro really focus on how to adapt psychoanalysis for the modern times, and I love that. So hopefully I will get to read a little bit of that. Now, fiction. Okay, so I have a little bit of a mix here, so just go along with me. I have The Parasites by Daphne du Maurier, and this is a book that I am halfway through. I started reading this baby back in January, and I was loving it. I was thoroughly enjoying it. It is dark, moody, dramatic, sort of creepy, you know, but it's not exactly creepy. It's just very intensely charged with dread. Very Daphne du Maurier, you know? If you've read Daphne du Maurier, you know what I mean. And so I was really enjoying this, but then life got in the way. Work, patience, teaching, and I just lost track of it. So I'm just going to continue, and I'm going to pick it up from where I left it, and if I don't understand anything that's going on, I will have to go back and reread some sections of it. But I think it's a very simple story so far. In terms of following the plot. So I think I can do it. So going back to psychoanalysis for a second, I am reading another book that I am reading both for myself as a psychoanalyst in training, but I am also teaching it to my students of psychology simultaneously, because I think this is a great text for introducing psychoanalysis to people who are living in the 21st century. This is a wonderful book that I always recommend to people who want to read psychoanalysis and want to have an introduction to psychoanalysis. This book is called The Soul, the Mind, and the Psychoanalyst. The author is David Rosenfeld. He is an Argentinian psychoanalyst. He's still alive. He is a great, great, great clinician. I actually had the chance of meeting him and see him read a paper of his in London at the IPA's conference last year. And he is a beacon of modern psychoanalysis as well. And the reason why I love this book and the reason why I always recommend it to people as an introduction to psychoanalysis is because I really love his approach. His very humane, warm, friendly approach of how he handles his patients, how he communicates with them, how he deals with very severe pathologies. Like in this book, he talks about patients who are severely disturbed, meaning autism, other psychosis, schizophrenia, addiction, and eating disorders. So these are very severe pathologies, and we could say that they are the most severe pathologies out there. And he deals with them, and he tells you how to approach these cases, these very, very difficult cases, through psychoanalysis, but it's a modern psychoanalysis. So many people come to me and they ask me for introductions to psychoanalysis, and they usually want to read Freud. And I always tell them no. Stay away from Freud. Freud is wonderful, and he is a genius, and he is the founding father of psychoanalysis. I love him. I have a keychain of Freud. In my office, I have a portrait, a painting of Freud. Freud is Freud, right? But if what you want is an introduction to psychoanalysis, I would urge you to stay clear of Freud's writing until after you have read something a little bit more like this. Because what I love about books like this is they offer you the whole package. You know, they offer you the theory, the new theory of psychoanalysis, the modern way of thinking psychoanalytically. They offer you the clinical approach, how a psychoanalyst really works with a patient. That's something that you don't get to see in many of Freud's papers, because Freud's way of working was very different in some regards. So you get to see how a psychoanalyst thinks and works in here. So I really, really love that. And then if you still want to learn more about the beginnings of psychoanalysis and the core principles of it, then you have to go back and start reading Freud and all of that. But firstly, I think a modern view of psychoanalysis can really hook you as a reader. That's the way that I became a psychoanalyst. I started reading the more contemporary way of thinking psychoanalytically, and then I decided I wanted to train as an analyst, and here I am. Another book that I want to read is Un día en la vida de una psicoanalista, A Day in the Life of a Psychoanalyst. This is written by Argentinian psychoanalyst Ada Rosmarin, and it's basically a collection of papers that she wrote exploring and thinking about different issues concerning the life, the work, and the feelings that of a psychoanalyst. And I started reading this book because she addresses a lot of ethical questions and how, as psychoanalysts, we always have to think constantly about everything that we do, everything that we feel, everything that the patient is bringing to the session. We are constantly operating internally. And the reason why I thought something like this was very necessary right now was because of the coronavirus, and not just the coronavirus, but some other social problems and social situations that have been taking place in Mexico City recently. Like there's a lot of women's strikes and feminist movements and various things that are happening in the social context. I am always trying to figure out how to incorporate that context into the session with a patient. It's a very tricky thing because as psychoanalysts, we have to think individually. We have to think about the patient. So it's a very tricky thing because we are not doing social psychology. We are not trying to always bring social problems and the social context into the session when it's not needed or when the patient is not bringing it to the session. But as psychoanalysts, again, we cannot deny what is happening. The coronavirus, a lot of concerns and things that are going on at the moment. So we have to think how to incorporate those things that are realistically going on in the world and in the country and in the city. We have to integrate them and see how they affect the patient's fantasies and the patient's experiences. And that's what psychoanalysis is all about. Coffee. Well, finally, another book that I really want to continue reading because I feel like such a fucking failure is The Amber Spyglass by Philip Pullman. So this is a book that I was supposed to have read. I forget when I started it, but it was last year, and so I was doing a read along of historic materials, and I read the first two books, and I loved them. I mean, I've read them like 6 times, so of course I know I love them. And I posted reviews for the first 2 books, and then I started reading this, and I completely lost track, and life got in the way, and I am almost finished with it. I'm just gonna try and pick it up and finish it quickly and post a review because this actually came to my attention because a new subscriber, I think his name is Cayo Vieira, Cayo, I'm forgetting your name right now, I'm sorry, but he is a new subscriber, and he commented in my one of those reviews. I think it was The Subtle Knife, and he said, "Where's your Amber Spyglass review?" And I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what I've been thinking. What am I doing with my life? So I want to deliver, and I want to read this, and I want to post a review. But yeah, a lot of things have happened since I started reading those books. Actually, in one of those reviews, I think it's the Northern Lights review, you can see one of my dogs, Gonzalo, appears in that video. I think he actually appears on the thumbnail of the video. And one of the horrible things that have happened since I posted those reviews is that he died. One of my dogs, that dog in particular that you can see in that video, died, and so yeah, a lot of things have happened, and maybe that's partly why I haven't gone back to the series. Maybe I unconsciously relate the experience of reading those books and making that review with my dog, who is no longer with me. So I'm gonna try and process that, and I'm gonna deliver a review of The Amber Spyglass. So thank you very much for watching this very ranty video. How are you doing with the coronavirus and everything that is going on? I am Just One Reader, and I look forward to another video. Thank you.